mess with a bull, young man. You'll get the horns.
Well, he really hit the shit out of that one, didn't he? Look at that. He hit the fucking bull.
I think that's why we wanted to do this podcast, right? Was to hear that story. Good for you. That's awesome.
You don't want to fade Logan's locks. Like, that's something you typically don't want to do.
Torro, Spanish for bull, noun, badass digital marketing agency ready to make your life simple AF.
All right, and we are back. Always bullish. Not sure what pod number this is, but I'm sitting here with Wick and Sully. And our guest today, fired up to have John West, former BC pitcher. Must be kind of crazy. You hear the word former.
Yeah, I'm not used to that one yet.
But looking forward to a big moment in your life here coming up. But thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. We're fired up to have you. And my first question is, did Shakira say yes to prom?
Dang, I should have checked that digital footprint.
No,
she didn't.
Pin tweet.
During the halftime show back in 2019. She said no. But no, thank you guys for having me today. I'm fired up for this one.
Sorry, I had to come in hot with that.
We got to talk about that intro, though, man. That was awesome.
Get a little bold.
Great intro out of you guys. Nice work.
Thank you. That was all Pat. But we went around. I basically looked for every single bull reference possible. And it was longer, too. We had to cut it down.
I think, Wick, you jumped in with the beat and made it sound
do a beat
good.
on it.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of that.
Thank you.
That was great.
We might just have to play it again real quick.
It kind of sums up, I think, Torro Media really well.
Yeah. Well, your life's changing pretty fast here. We got MLB draft coming up. There's a lot of things I want to touch on today. And a lot of the connections that we have with the with ALS, with the Pete Frates Family Foundation. But maybe let's take a giant step back, huge step back. You're a local guy, right?
Sure thing.
Shrewsbury,
Mass.
I found out this morning that you were a phenomenal basketball player too. I mean, 6'8", kind of pretty good on the court there. Was there ever a decision with college of like, maybe I should go basketball route, or was it always baseball?
You know what? Actually, there was a period of time in high school where that was definitely a conversation, especially more in 8th grade, actually.
Okay.
Dating back that early, because at that point in time it was a question of where was I going to go to high school, and for me, I played on a really good travel ball team called BABC.
Okay.
At the time, was sponsored by Nike and played in the EYBL league, and that was a great experience. For me as a basketball lover, and just loved playing the game at a high level. So that was great. But come 8th grade, it was all right. Am I going to go to Shrewsbury High School, where my brother went, and full of all the people and best friends I knew growing up? Or was I going to head off to prep school? And if I had headed off to prep school, baseball was kind of secondary at that point. I'd been playing so much basketball.
Interesting.
So when it came down to it, I just looked at, the people that were around me, and I loved my friends so much. I wanted to go through high school with them, and never looked back after that. But, once I got to Shrewsbury High School, it became pretty clear that baseball was going to take over the priority, and
cool.
Committed to BC pretty early my sophomore year.
No shit. Wow.
Yeah.
That's, and what was some of the things, and I think I've seen some of the stuff before, but if you could explain a little bit more, like what made you commit so early to BC? What was some of the things that you were considering when, Boston College popped up?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I remember, I've shared this one a couple times before. My first phone call with Greg Sullivan my freshman year was actually in the winter. I hadn't even played a high school baseball game yet. His college roommate was my Legion coach, Chris DeSantis, and we talked earlier before the pod about how baseball is a small world, and I learned that pretty quick when I did a phone call pregame with the Boston College assistant coach. He had no idea it was pregame, by the way. He'd get mad at me for saying, that he'd pull me out of a game. He never did, but I went out there in my jumpsuit and I talked to him, and at that point I realized, okay, this college thing is going to start happening a little bit quicker than maybe usual, and I think at the end of that freshman summer, my mom signed me up for the BC baseball camp.
Cool.
Because we had a couple phone calls, but she was like, let's get you in front of these guys if they're going to be in Northborough, because they had actually just started tearing down the old Shea Field.
Right.
And so we went over to the Northborough complex 5 minutes from my house, and I played a camp in front of these guys. And next thing you know, I got on campus for a visit, and it just clicked.
That's awesome. I went to that same camp.
Did you really?
It was hands down, I mean, we're different ages, but they had the BC camp, and hands down my worst performance ever was at that camp. I showed up at, all sorts of like perfect game stuff and different things. I would show up for those. The BC camp was brutal. Man. So locally, I was like, that was the one. And then, but that's it's different, I guess, position players versus pitcher too.
Yeah, it is a little different. Actually at the time I thought about two-waying.
Oh, no shit.
When I committed, I actually thought I was a two-way. I could say this now that I'm done, I guess. I thought I was a two-way when I committed, and I showed up on campus, and I didn't even get a chance to hold a bat. So,
oh man,
you're a PL, buddy. You're a PL.
Sit down, put those batting gloves down.
Yeah.
Nothing better though when those guys would get the bat in their hand, and then they would piece one up.
Awesome.
How about this? I actually got in that bat in college.
Nice.
My sophomore year, hadn't hit in I didn't have a senior year, so well over 2 years at this point. And our catcher went down. They were like, I was pitching. They're like, we're not pulling someone else in, so you're hitting. Against Wake Forest, we're down like 11 runs. Freaking brutal. And I go up there. This kid, he was only throwing like 90, but it had good life on it, and he had a good slider. And funny story, he throws one fastball, and I kind of ticked it late. Yeah. I'm like, all right, I'm on him. Okay. And I just hear from the dugout, the pitching coach yells, dude, he's a pitcher. And I'm like, dude, no way. I'm getting another heater. 3 sliders in a row. Banged me out on 3 and went back to the dugout. That was my only chance, man.
Damn.
The boys must have been going, though, when you got into the box.
Down 11, I think there was as much excitement as there could have been. Like, guys are on the edge of their seats trying to, I'd been bragging about being a two-way for probably a year about that point, so they were kind of hoping I got out, I think.
Oh, man, that's so funny. If you take time off, though, like, and step in the batter's box, like, honestly, like, 80 looks like Verlander. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, it catches up on your hands fast. Yeah. That happened to me. I took some time off and then came back and I was like, holy shit, how hard is this guy throwing? He was like throwing low 80s. I was like, oh man, this is a joke.
Yeah, but, that's exactly it, man.
That's awesome. That so you went the BC path, and at what point were you introduced to maybe Pete Frates? And when did that side kind of introduce itself to you?
So sure thing. I knew about Pete actually through him starting the Ice Bucket Challenge back in 2014. My dad had been battling with ALS for about 4.5, 5 years at that point. He was kind of on his way out with ALS, and I remember sitting in the living room with him. It was just my dad and I. We were watching the news, and all of a sudden I look up from my iPad, and it's Pete Frates' ALS Ice Bucket Challenge at Fenway. And at that point in time, ALS was not something that people really talked about or knew about. You might understand, Lou Gehrig and his story, but there was really never I know what ALS is. It was kind of like, oh, okay, and kind of nod your head, but never really understand. And so from that day forward, I knew who Pete was, and I always associated BC baseball with Pete Frates. And so when I was sharing that phone call earlier with Greg Sullivan, he asked me, what do you know about BC baseball or college baseball in itself? And I straight up said, I have no idea about any of it. The only thing I know about is Pete Frates. And I told him about my connection with ALS. And I would actually say, kind of going back to your question before, Pete in his battle with ALS, but more so the community aspect of his family and his team, and Boston College baseball and the university as a whole standing behind him and lifting his mission into the forefront was actually a really strong driving factor into me going to Boston College to begin with. So Pete's been a pretty influential part of my life for about 12 years. Though I never met him personally one-on-one, I've been really fortunate to have built a really good relationship with his parents. Recently, his sister, his brother Andrew, I talked to quite frequently, and now his daughter and his wife Julie. So
Andrew was the one that told me about the basketball and some other stuff. I was talking to him this morning.
Yeah.
But that's that ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. It's coming up on 10 years, and so you must have been so little, like
12 years old.
12 years old, and you're seeing that, and also witnessing it firsthand.
Yeah. Did
you guys partake in the Ice Bucket Challenge?
I actually did, and it took me up until last year to actually find my Ice Bucket Challenge. It was a different era back then because social media for like younger kids wasn't really a thing, at least not for me.
Right.
So I was going into like 7th grade. I didn't even have an Instagram.
Yeah, no, I didn't have any of that until like freshman year.
Yeah, that
grade.
wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
For too many people, right? And so I made a video, but I never put it out there. And I actually thought about it a couple years ago. I'm like, where's my Ice Bucket Challenge? I actually ended up finding it. So it's in my camera roll. But yeah, my brother put one out on his social media, and we definitely partook in it. It was a pretty cool moment because as a 10-year-old kid answering questions from adults like, what's ALS? Yeah. Or my dad shows up to an event and he's in a wheelchair and, can't talk or he's reclined, and they're like, it's kind of an awkward, what's going on? And I just be like, well, this is just the life that I knew. So I was like, oh, it's ALS. Same with my brother and my mom. And so when this came into the forefront, like, we jumped on it. We loved it. It was really cool.
Yeah. I remember I got an email from Andrew when Pete was first diagnosed. And like I went to St. John's Prep, just like, Pete and Andrew. And we were freshmen. Pete was a senior when we were in high school. Everyone looked up to Pete. He was like the man. He was like literally the coolest guy ever. And when Andrew sent out, an email to all the guys, just like, hey, Pete was just diagnosed with ALS, kind of filling this in on it. Like, I had zero clue, like no clue what ALS was or what that kind of trajectory looked like. And like learning that, and when he was like diagnosed at 27, it's just crazy. It was like really, really sad, and something that, when to see kind of what they've done with the disease and moving it forward, it's been crazy to witness. It's been, I guess if you're looking at any sort of silver lining, the way he's moved that like single-handedly, and then with his community, it's like it's pretty impressive.
It's really remarkable, actually. You hear ALS and you think of Pete Frates. It's synonymous. You think of Lou Gehrig now, or you've always had, but now that it's more prominent, you're like, okay, Lou Gehrig, Pete Frates, and Pat Quinn, who started it with him, and some of these other prominent figures that are especially involved in baseball. But Lou Gehrig was diagnosed with ALS 80 years ago.
Right.
And I brought this up at our Fenway game when Danny Wexelman was interviewing me, and there was more progress in the last 10 years since Pete and Pat started this thing than there was in the 80 years prior since Lou. And I think that's one of the more remarkable things, and something to really celebrate now that you mentioned 10 years this August, to celebrate and to bring back into the forefront of people's minds that this thing is not over. We can keep going with this mission.
It's been really wild to kind of zoom out on 10 years and see what has happened in that time period and the footprint that Pete had with this. But, I think I've seen some of your games, seen you pitch without knowing it was you. But then I did have the honor of going to the ALS game at Fenway this past year, and you delivered one of the best speeches I've heard, and it was like clearly from the heart. Like, it was something that you were like, wow, this guy really knows what this disease is about. The way you spoke about it so passionately, it was incredible.
Thank you very much.
That
means a lot.
Yeah,
He came in talking about it the next day. No joke. Being like, you should have heard this kid talking.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it was wild. It was awesome.
Really appreciate that. Thank you.
But in some of that movement, some of that momentum that he created, there now is these things. There's like, it's kind of baseball's disease. Mm-hmm. There's the ALS game. There's, other awareness where, high schools, different leagues, different things, they're all taking on this kind of like ALS game, wearing Frates jerseys, and it's kind of turned into a much bigger thing. But what's that been like, playing at Fenway? You got to pitch in it last year, right?
I did my junior year.
That's what it was. Okay. Against Notre Dame.
Against Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Icing on the top. And honestly, a really prominent deciding factor game towards our regional standings and whatever in that regard. But it was a really cool experience.
That was a wild run, too, you guys went on.
Yeah, that was probably the coolest part of my athletic career so far.
Yeah.
That team was so special. We were so tight. And, I think that game is just, you look back on that year and it kind of represents that team in a lot of ways. And that run we had was just so special. You look at Joe Vitrano's home runs and, everyone had a piece of that game on our team, from Mike Gambino and the coaching staff down. Everyone had a piece of that game. So that was the real special part for us as a team.
That was exciting. I just remember following it. And obviously, you talked to Andrew a bunch. I talked to Andrew a whole bunch, and, he's got new little one right now. He's not getting much sleep and stuff, but try to catch up as much as I can. But that was cool to follow, and the excitement, just like locally, was like another level to put BC baseball really on the map. It was crazy.
I really think that that year was pivotal for the program.
Agreed.
Which is an honor in itself to have just been a small part of. But yeah, like we felt the community rally behind it. But I think the ALS game was something that was our opportunity to see that, right? Because on top of all the hype around that game, there's one thing that some people miss is that there was no students at that game because students had gone home for summer. Right. And so the large crowd that had amassed at that point was there to support ALS, but also was there because we were having a pretty solid year at that point and wanted to see us play. So it was really cool how those two things worked hand in hand that season and kind of propelled this past season's game into the spotlight again for people's calendars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was nuts. Go for it.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious because it's one of the coolest parts of working here is now understanding the inner workings of the foundation and now being a small part of helping it, grow. But when I look at that game and I think back to what it's like to play in college baseball, you have kids coming in that don't know Pete, don't know what ALS is, but they come to play for Boston College. The perception from the outside is it's a very important part of the program for every person that's involved in it. How does that happen? I assume that's exactly what's happened, but can you talk a little bit about what happens when you get to BC, the education, or why is it so important to every kid that plays there?
There's no doubt. I mean, I'll say this. Boston College in itself is a really, really unique university, and it's, it was the best experience of my life to go there for 4 years. I feel like Lou Gehrig, the luckiest man alive to have gone to Boston College and meet the people that I, met there. But yeah, between it being a prestigious academic university in the ACC and in Boston, those are three check marks that you don't find that many places. But then when you get on campus as a recruit and you talk about Pete, right? Pete is such a staple of the program that our facility that we just built on top of the field is named the Pete Frates Center. So the first thing you see on a visit is Pete's name on the door. And I think that's one of the things I never personally took for granted walking into the facility every day is you put your key card in, you look up, and it's Pete Frates every single day. And you walk down to the locker room, and right outside the door of the training room is the Pete Frates mural and a tribute to him. And, it's just Pete's everywhere in BC baseball, but it's impossible to not know who Pete is and know Pete's story and go and play on the Boston College baseball team. It's integral. It's really special.
Now you're officially part of the foundation too. You're on the starting lineup with the board.
Yeah, I'm really honored to be a part of that with you guys. Like you said before, just to be a part of the foundation and help in any way possible is really cool. It's a super cool honor, and I'm just really looking forward to helping any way I can.
That's cool, man. I mean, there's no doubt with what you've done in your college career, what you've kind of done athletically, and your trajectory too, that your platform grows. And to put that kind of mission to use is incredible. But also the fact that you're just so tied to this. You've been tied to this since you were a kid with your dad and everything like that. So that must be, I guess, extra special to kind of feel like you're on this kind of constant helping mission with this disease.
No, it's super special. I mean, and I'll share this. I've said this before. It's a little off topic, but it ties in. Is that ALS takes a team to fight, whether it's an actual victim in the family, or it's a foundation like the Pete Frates Family Foundation that is helping to relieve those financial burdens from families, because this thing is a wipeout. It's hard, not just emotionally, but financially and physically, all of it. And so, watching I was young when my dad had it. I was 7, 8 years old to 12, 13. And so my brother's, 4.5, 5 years older than me. And my mom was the most amazing wife to my dad throughout the entire thing. But, watching the way that they took on that part of the battle, for me growing up now, it's really cool to find a way to give my piece back to it on top of it. And and get involved. It's special.
That's one thing with the foundation in general that I think is very different than other ALS organizations we've seen. Is like there's the overall like let's find a cure, right? Back science, all that stuff. But the financial burden is something I think no one really knows. Is the crazy cost to keep a loved one in their homes and with their family and things like that. That us helping with the foundation and knowing that it's going to actual financial assistance to people that are living with ALS right now, and not just the long-term solution. It's that's rewarding because like we've seen firsthand like the written letters that Nancy, John, and people at the foundation get, just saying like thank you so much, or people saying like, why am I getting this? Like, do I get to keep this money? Like, yeah, you do.
This is for you.
Yeah, it's crazy, but that's I think a side that when people give and are generous, that maybe they don't know where it's going to. But this going directly to people that are like really struggling, it's cool to see that level of support's there. Yeah,
it's super. It's like you said, you put it best when you said it's a really rewarding aspect of being able to be involved because you see the gratitude on the faces of these people that are, really going through hell. Yeah. And that's a big part of it. Like you said, no one really fully understands. One, ALS is a disease, right? I think I've talked to Mike Pitt, the new head of the foundation, about this recently, is people know what ALS is now. They know the name, and they understand it's terrible, but you don't really see that many people in the back half of ALS because it's ugly.
Right.
It's really ugly. And on top of it, it's almost just as ugly financially. Mm-hmm. Just to it's impossibly comfortable with ALS, but to, get to a point where you're semi-comfortable, just physically,
right.
And on top of it, like you said, keep people in their homes with their families, allow them to make memories and actually be human beings and not just caregivers.
Right.
People don't see that aspect of it, and it really is a wipeout. Like it knocks you out pretty good. So it's ugly, but those are the things that I think, like you said, the Pete Frates Family Foundation is unique in regards. That's a big part of this thing. Is yes, we want a cure. We want a cure, and we want this to be done with. But there's still people that are dealing with this right now, and you need to help them too.
Yeah, no, that everyone in the family turning into a caregiver is a huge, huge burden. I mean, I saw like Andrew put his life on hold essentially to be his brother's caregiver full time. Like that's a huge ask, and I can't imagine. I mean, can't imagine any of that at any age. But like you, your brother, like your mom, like that's like to be early on and helping like your dad and stuff like that. Like that's a whole nother level. Like, is it hard? It's probably hard to like go out and play and be a kid when you got stuff like that going on too. So
that's a great point. And I look back on it and I think more so for me because I was younger. Yeah. Like I just knew that as life. Yeah. Right. My brother was a little older than I was, and he took on a lot of the heavy burden of the lifting and in the late nights and of that. He, like Andrew, sacrificed his high school athletic and potential college career athletics to help my dad. And so, when you look at the Frates family, they're the salt of the earth. Like you don't find people better than the Frates family anywhere. And I think they would say the same thing. It's what you do for a loved one, but it doesn't make it easy, right? And that's what this whole thing's about.
No, 100%. Yeah, they are like the model
coolest
citizens.
People ever. Yeah. Like they're stand-up people, and they have done an insane amount for this disease, probably more than almost anyone.
Yeah.
But you talk to them, and like they're the most normal and funny and down-to-earth, cool people like you ever meet. Andrew's the man.
Oh my
God. John, Nancy, they're incredible. Pete's sister, like they're amazing. So.
Yeah, John will bust balls with the best of them. Like he came in here cracking a million jokes and stuff like on that pod. But he's they're great. And that Pete was part of that. Like the way that Pete would act and just like constant generosity and giving. It was like that's just like kind of built into their DNA.
Just who they are.
It's pretty cool.
It makes it all more cool.
Well, I loved it because we just talked to them a week or two ago, and that was fresh. That was one of my questions is like, I see what everyone else sees, but the one thing that I want to know more about is, why did this happen? Like, what was Pete saying when it first happened. And it's so funny to hear stories about him because I never got to meet him either.
Sure.
And it just seems like, boy, did he control a room to the point that he's still controlling the room right now. And he is just, people can't stop because Pete won't let them stop still, which is amazing. I mean, there's not many people that can carry a room still. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's the one thing, you know, like I said before, like you said, I was fortunate to meet Pete, but anyone that I've met who knew Pete really close will say the same thing, and they'll laugh because, you know, my coach Mike Gambino and Greg Sullivan have always said, you look at some of these incidences, right? Like the ALS game 2 years ago, I wasn't supposed to pitch in it, and you know, there was an ALS game where it was supposed to rain, and Pete wasn't sure if he could make it, and then all of a sudden it cleared up right before the game, and like, there's so many of these weird instances where they just know, yeah, Pete's fingerprints are all over this, man. Like, it always works out when Pete's involved. Like, this is how it goes, man. They say it all the time. It's funny. It's a good running joke.
No, I've witnessed that with some of the charity events too, and a little shift that you're like, that was not in the forecast.
That
like,
was not supposed to happen, man.
yeah, it's weird.
It's real. I mean, I believe in that. Like, genuinely having that connection from like the past, you know.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
No, I think, there's deeper things happening here, but P is strong. He's strong.
He's got his hands all over it, man. He's still guiding this thing.
Shifting gears a little bit. Today's July 11th, 2024.
Yeah.
There's a big thing happening in 3 days, right?
Yep.
The MLB draft. Can you tell us a little bit more about the excitement maybe happening right now with you and kind of like all the things that you've done at Boston College, all the things you've worked up for, it seems like are playing out now in what's hopefully very hopeful here in the next less than a week. What's going through your head right now in that regard?
There's a lot of things, man. There's a lot on my mind these last couple days. I'll tell you one thing. This week has felt like an eternity for starters.
I bet.
Excuse me, but yeah, it's a really exciting time. This is something I have been dreaming about since I was 4 or 5 years old and started playing baseball, almost like any kid that plays baseball always dreams of. And, you know, nothing's happened yet, so I don't want to speak too soon, but
Of course.
I feel very fortunate to have just be in this position alone. I'm not sure if I've really had a chance to take the time to reflect back on the last 4 years and how it's gotten to this point. And, you know, I think I'm slowly starting to do that. But there's just an immense amount of gratitude for the way this went, because I would tell you one thing, coming into college, this did not go the way I thought it was going to go in the slightest. And I guess it never really does, right? Like anything in life, but I wouldn't have it any other way. It's an exciting time. We're going to hope for the best in a couple of days.
Yeah. And I mean, you're 22, I'm 20. It's got to be surreal. I mean, I'm going to be a junior in college. Time flies. I mean, you look at, like, is it a little crazy that you're already at this point now? I mean, sometimes I still feel like I'm a kid here and there, and then, like, I got to figure out what I'm doing in 2 years. You're out here getting ready for the draft. Like, I mean, it's pretty crazy.
It is crazy. I actually talked to my mom about that last night. Is like, it feels like yesterday, especially for her, when I was 13 years old and traveling, play travel ball and going on trips with her and doing all that jazz. But, like, you blink your eye and you're here.
Exactly.
And I felt like I just got to BC yesterday, and here I am, graduated.
Yeah.
And, you know, it also feels like I was just saying a couple days ago, oh, yeah, we got 6 weeks till the draft. Shit, man. You blink your eye, and it's 2 days away.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
You know, there's a lot of uncertainty in the process that makes it a little unsettling, but in a lot of ways it's also exciting because you can end up anywhere. You don't know. Right. You don't know until really the day of. You don't know who, you don't know when, you don't know how much, you don't know what day you're going to get shipped off. It could be the next day, it could be 6 days. So there's, you know, yes, if there's some things on my mind, I think those are probably some of the things that hop in there. But, you know, I'll be looking forward to any chance to play at the next level. I think it was
nice.
Wherever it may be.
Is there any, you know, fingers crossed, hoping to be back at Fenway, or is there any, you know, desire at specific areas of the country?
I'll say this. I would love to be back at Fenway Park, whether It's in another uniform or a Red Sox uniform, just because that, other than Cape Cod, Harwichport, Fenway Park is my favorite place on the entire earth.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a desire to get back there. I just don't know what capacity that looks like yet.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Is there, I mean, you said you were at a workout this morning. Is this, you're just trying to keep busy at this point? I mean, the clock's ticking, but you said it's kind of crawling. Like, is there?
Clock is definitely ticking. For me right now, it's more of a, okay, I don't have any college eligibility left, so I can't play in the Cape Cod League or any of the summer leagues for collegiate. And for me, it just made the most sense to, we finished a little earlier than I think we had hoped and anticipated for this year, unfortunately. And after hitting 80 innings, I just said, you know what, I think it's probably best to take a couple weeks off and then build back up. So throwing-wise, I'm just building back up. Feel great. It's the best I've ever felt. And on top of that, I said, you know what, if I take a week off here, reset, and then get back into lift mode, I'm like 6 or 7 weeks of lifting in, and it's probably the best I've ever felt. So
Amazing.
That's really the priority right now for me, is getting the best shape I could possibly get in.
I think like being 31 now, when I have a little bit of a different perspective,
Sure.
where I hear you're going to get drafted, and that must bring 1,000 things into your mind. But for me sitting here, it's like, man, if I could play one more meaningful baseball game,
Yeah.
I can't put a price on it, how
Right.
special that would be. So can you just, like, in that sort of mindset, can you just talk about like what baseball means to you? Because it was the best thing I ever did. I loved it so much. I loved being a baseball player. I identified as being a baseball player. Do you feel that way? Or like, what does baseball mean to you?
You know what? That's a really, really good question. And I think you might agree with my answer here is it's, I love to compete. Like, that is something I love to do, and I love that baseball brings that, because it brings out a really strong side of me in that regard. But I honestly think what I really love about baseball is the people and the places it's introduced me to. As corny and cliche as that might sound, like, it really is the truth. I look back as early as, T-ball. Like, those are my best friends to this day from Shrewsbury.
Yeah.
Are my T-ball and instructional league teammates. So those are my high school best friends. We grew up playing Little League together. We grew up playing high school together. And that is where we formed that bond. And now I go to college, and my best friends are my teammates. And those were those are where a lot of my happy memories come from. My dad and my brother and my mom taught me to play baseball. So I look at that and I say baseball has brought me some of my best memories. It's created bonds with the most important people in my life. And then on top of it, like, I was so fortunate to play at BC, and you play college ball, you get the chance to travel, and you get to see other schools, and you just get so many opportunities, and you meet so many people along the way that makes it all the more special. So I think, in that regard, at the deepest root, that's why I love baseball. But on top of it, I could talk for hours about pitching and the grind that comes in the discipline and the things you learn that apply to life outside of baseball that make me love it so much. But we could be here for 10 hours doing that.
I love it.
And it's crazy too how much I agree with you 100%. I was even saying to you just before this, like, I'm trying to, now in my 30s, trying to like better myself. And who do I go to? It's my college teammate pitcher, who's now a personal trainer,
Right.
and we're sharing videos back and forth. And I have reflected even in the last week or so of being like, I'm really lucky I have this kid in my life who wants to genuinely help me with no financial, want or anything. And we're nicknaming some of the things we're doing after our college experience. And it's
Right.
like, it's just so valuable, and it's something that you will always have. And
You appreciate it on a deeper level forever. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt.
And even at Torro, it's crazy because the people we interview and whatnot, I'm always like, well, I have a sports mindset, so I think X, Y, Z. But it's really helped, and it's all the same lessons carry on to
They do.
right
They
now.
translate.
Yeah. What do you do when it's 11-0 in a 30-degree game and it's freezing cold and no one wants to be there? Like, how do you act in that moment? It all translates even to, now being in the business world.
There's no doubt about that. It's something definitely don't take for granted once I came to realize that, for sure.
I got a baseball question for you. So ACC, you're traveling a lot of places. What's your favorite place to play at, other than Fenway?
Good question, man. Other than Fenway is a really good ad on that too. Actually, I would say this. I really enjoyed playing at Georgia Tech this year.
Georgia Tech.
Funny enough, I should say that this was the first time I'd ever been there.
Yeah.
In my 4 years, and it was the last ACC school on my Infinity Stone list, and it was ALS weekend.
Wow.
How about that? It was Jim Poole, one of their star players and key figures in their program who got diagnosed with ALS that just recently passed, and they had a memorial game with the Hop on a Cure Foundation with John Hop from the Zach Brown Band.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right.
So that was really cool. But playing at Georgia Tech was really cool, man. Like, they had a great environment. And on top of it,
I mean, the Southern schools go crazy.
They go crazy. And, dude, Clemson's environment is different.
Yeah.
Clemson and Florida State is...
Florida State. I was there this past spring break.
It's a different level, man.
Yeah.
Like, I
Good culture.
love Boston. And I hope that we get to a point where we're bringing in, some fans like that. It's pretty hard to compete with the Red Sox right there. But you go down there and they got their own strikeout chants, and they got 3,000 to 5,000, 6,000 fans or whatever it is.
That's cool.
Screaming at you with the PR jumping in on top of you. You're on the mound, all of a sudden it's da, 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 and the whole place is stomping, and you just let up 2 runs, and you're like, I gotta go straight this guy out, man.
I had a buddy transfer from UVM to Clemson, and the kid was just never the same again. He just went to an ACC school like that.
It's different, man.
It's different.
I have a feeling you're going to get a larger number of people yelling at you pretty soon. So
Yeah.
It's true. I know, right?
I'm used to it at this point.
What about BC plays Red Sox every single year? Did you ever pitch against the Red Sox and have to face one of their batters?
I wish, man. Unfortunately, right when I got there, they stopped playing.
Oh, they didn't do that anymore?
I wish. It was something I looked forward to when I committed.
Right?
Like anyone would, right? Like, you had a chance to pitch against Rafael Devers, and at the time it was David Ortiz and those guys. But
yeah,
something happened to, I don't know if it was sponsorship or whatever. We no longer play them, but I did get a chance to watch some Northeastern guys get lit up by the Red Sox, so that was pretty fun to watch. I'll take that all day.
Sips. Oh no, he's Northeastern in there. He wouldn't like that one.
Let him know I said that one.
Well, Sip went to Merrimack with me, but he worked at Northeastern, so he's
think
got a little bit of a tie there.
Whether it's good or bad in those situations, it's a great story. Like, I think Pete, he popped up against Dice K Matsuzaka. I think in his appearance. But I got a buddy who was a pitcher in college and faced UConn, and he has a story of how George Springer took him where the ball's still traveling to this day.
650 feet.
So I think the good and the bad with those scenarios, it's always a good story.
You just always think of the story with you,
Yeah, exactly.
There's some good ones out there too, from what I've heard.
I didn't know that they stopped doing that.
That's
Bummer.
a tough one. It was definitely a bummer. I was looking at the schedule. I'm like, where's the Red Sox? Yeah, we don't do that. I'm like,
oh, what the hell?
What do you mean you don't do that? That's all right. That's what it is. You have to play at Fenway Park, so I can't complain about anything.
I saw a debate last week. I think it was through Barstool, but a debate about the best baseball movie of all time. What's your go-to?
Dude, that's tough.
Right?
It depends what you're going for, right?
That's the hard questions here.
You really do. This is deep, man. It's hard for me to go with anything but The Sandlot. That might be really mainstream. You got Rookie of the Year, solid. They actually had that on a kids camp today at BC. They were going freaking nuts for it. Smearing PBJs all over my locker when I'm trying to go get my shoes. It was awesome, man. I loved it. But Rookie of the Year, Field of Dreams is hard to beat too. What am I?
I got Moneyball. Moneyball's a good one.
Moneyball's electric.
So they had Moneyball ranked 1, followed by Sandlot, and then Field of Dreams, I think, is their top 3.
It's pretty fair.
I think Bull Durham got the axe on that one.
I agree. Bull Durham I've watched 10,000 times. But there's a few of them that I haven't actually seen that are pathetic, and I'm actually embarrassed to admit.
What's that one?
I'm actually going to, sorry to cut you off, I'm going to step in here and go rom-com on them, whatever you want to call it. Summer Catch.
Oh, my God.
Jessica Biel and Freddie Prinze Jr. BC guy flunks out or gets kicked off, whatever, goes to Fitchburg or Framingham.
Yeah.
Tries to get picked up in the Cape Cod League. That movie's electric.
So funny. So my buddy,
That might be 1-1 for me.
my buddy from high school, Steve Peterson, he pitched in the Brewers organization. He watched that movie as a ritual before every one of his starts. He would
Really?
watch Fever Pitch, which I'm like, Fever Pitch? Is that the...
With Jimmy Fallon?
Oh, no, not Fever Pitch. I'm
Or
sorry.
Summer Catch.
Summer Catch. I was thinking Fever Pitch as another one.
That's a good one.
That's like, yeah, right. But no, he would watch Summer Catch before every single start, and like, it was the state semifinals, and it was like, hey, did you watch Summer Catch this morning? Like, you ready to go? And he's like, oh yeah, no, I watched Summer Catch.
Locked in.
He's locked in.
It's like Joe Mazzulla watching The Town.
Yeah.
A little different, but
See, I respect the shit out of that too. It
I
doesn't have to
actually
be
loved it.
baseball.
I loved it.
But yeah, I
That's
think
great.
it's a tough choice. But I don't think you're taking the easy route if you took Sandlot. I think I showed my 6-year-old that last year when he was 5, and he wanted to watch that every single
Every single
weekend
day.
for like a month. Can we watch Sandlot again? Can we watch Sandlot?
It's my kind of guy.
Exactly. I know. Raising him right over here.
I have 2 questions. One, I'm just very curious about this. What's it like? I'm assuming you use some sort of headgear or something to get signs.
It's a wristwatch. There are guys that do the pitch comm with the headgear. We just don't have it at BC.
Can you just walk me through that? Because I was a catcher, right? So I was
It
body
makes
signs.
everything so much better.
Really?
I'm a huge pace of play guy. Like, I want to get on the mound, pitch, get the ball back, and pitch. I don't want to take 20 minutes between pitches.
Yeah.
Like, I just can't stand that. So, and I also needed I could go so off track with this one, but
Let's do it.
my freshman and sophomore year of college, I needed contacts, and I never said anything. And so we didn't have the pitch comm stuff yet, and I threw a 4-seam and a 2-seam, and then 2 was a curveball, 3 was a slider, 4 was a changeup. So those fingers got a little wiggly in there for me because I needed contacts. And so I'd go to pitch, and like, the sign would come in, and I'd be like, oh shit, was that a wiggle or was that a 2 or what was that? Yeah. And like a lot of times I'd step off, and they'd be like, why is he stepping off? Yeah. And I like never said anything. And then eventually, my 4-seam would kind of cut, but my 2-seam like really sank. And so my catcher would call one or the other, and I'd think it was one, and I'd throw it and like break his thumb. He'd
Want to kill you.
and they'd come in, and they'd be like mad at the catcher. They'd be like, "Are you focused back there?" And I felt so bad. I'm like, "No, it's my fault." And they're like, "No, like you're freshman." Like,
No.
This is getting my blood boiling. It really is.
I'm sure this is eating you up.
I'm going to send this to Junior Vasquez from Lawrence, Massachusetts, because we were inside, right? These are winter workouts in this like place on Route 1. And he is giving me this every time. So this kid threw like low 90s. He could chuck it. And this ball would go this way one time, this way the next.
And you can't catch it.
I couldn't catch it. I'm getting reamed out, screamed at relentlessly, and I have to now turn around and run again to get the ball that I just missed. And I can't figure out. I'm trying to scream like, it goes one fucking way, I don't know. And they're like, why would you want a fastball to not have movement, Pat? And I'm like, I don't. And
You don't know what the fuck to expect.
So what was happening is he, in his brain, thought it looked different, but he was like saying fastball or cutter, like one way or another. But it happened the entire year, and I'd never.
Right. You got a flimsy glove, like sliders this, fastball's this. You get sloppy in the middle there, it's dangerous ground.
The catcher would get reamed out every single time. As soon as you said that, it was like I can still hear them screaming at me, and it took like 6 months to figure out. He just didn't know that he was giving the same sign every single time.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's brutal,
He
man.
just struck a nerve.
So
right?
yeah, I'm sure to get the blood boiling, but
So you for the pitch clock? You like this?
I like it, man. I have zero problem with the pitch clock. I love the pitch comm stuff because the pace of play is better.
Yeah.
And for me, it's more exciting to pitch, but it's also more exciting to watch.
Definitely watch. I mean, those 4-hour games, Sox Yankees now are cut
Yeah.
down drastically.
I mean, I was watching the Sox last night, and before I knew it, it was the 7th inning. And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah,
It's
I like
flies.
it. I like it a lot as a spectator.
It's good. I mean, you kind of start to compete with, the basketball timeline now at that point. Now, sometimes if you got an uneventful game, and baseball fans would say that pitchers duels are good baseball games, but like if you're a spectator,
Yeah.
you kind of want to see some action.
True.
So those games get really quick, and that's when you're like, all right, I just paid this much money to go to Fenway and see the Red Sox play for like an hour and a half.
Yeah. Really too quick.
It's a little too quick, but no, it's. I think it's a good thing. I'm a huge fan of the pitch clock.
A couple other rule changes. Are you? I mean, right now, heavy debate I think in the community is robot umps. Are you?
Out.
You're out.
Out.
Now this is just you think you catch a couple calls on the corners and stuff that you need those calls here and there, or you just think it would ruin the game.
I think nothing's meant to be perfect, man.
No.
You know, like basketball's not perfect, football's not perfect. That's why you get instant replay and stuff, right?
Yeah.
I think implementing a challenge call, like they're starting to do in the minor leagues, where a pitcher can tap their head and be like, okay, I want to challenge that one pitch, and then you get the immediate feedback. Okay, reverse the call.
Wow.
I think that's fine.
Wow.
But the minute you implement that robo ump is the minute the game, game is, it's an old game.
Right.
And you can't, at least in my opinion, you can't change that, because that's why people love it, is for the way it is. Like it's imperfect, and that's great.
I'm with you. I think they've done enough. I think to this point to address a problem of attention spans and things like that, speeding it up. But it does turn into a slippery slope. And I think we saw this in other leagues too, where like NFL made a bunch of changes, and then all of a sudden you couldn't do like, touchdown dances, touchdown celebration. They like took things too far.
Right.
And I just hope baseball doesn't take things too far.
There's the line. You just got to know where the line is. And I don't blame them, and I don't think it's a bad idea to test.
Yeah.
But,
it's cool that the minors is that test.
Right. The minors is that test, and that's cool.
I also think a big part of the entertainment value of baseball is seeing like a manager get rung up or something.
Yeah, man.
And you put in robot umps, and that you can't really argue
happen,
anything
man.
anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, they take I think that takes a little bit of the emotion out of the game
Yeah,
too.
definitely.
Because you don't really have I don't know what that is. It's not a team call, whatever.
That'd be unbelievable if you took the call right now.
Yeah, if that is a
check
team
that,
call, you might want to
check
check that. We were debating robot umps. I couldn't take a call. Take it if it's a team call.
Best moment, always bullish history, is he gets the call right now.
Right
That
now,
would have been unbelievable.
that would have been historic.
Unfortunately not. That's okay.
That's all right. We got a couple days. It's all right.
A couple days.
We're not ready yet.
Every ding of the phone. Wow. Yeah. I get anxiety, dude.
I will say this. Like, I got to change my notifications or something, because
Get a
sometimes when a group chat
Snapchat.
goes off, I'm like, what am I missing here, man?
If you had like a Apple Watch or one of those things too, you would just buzz and check in everything all the time.
Luckily, I don't, because I don't know if I'd ever stop looking or just double checking everything. I got a couple things I got to submit tonight, but other than that, I'm staying patient with it as much as I can.
Love it. Love it. Love
So
it.
you just played college baseball. To one of my guys at 16, 17, besides the physical, like hit the ball 400 feet every time, what do you think the most important thing is that a college coach would look for to, one, get to college, and two, succeed once you get there as a freshman?
You cool with a long-winded answer on this one?
Definitely.
It ranges here. So I'll say this. One, like, if you're going to play at the Division I level, you need to have at least one tool that separates you. You need one separating thing that just kind of comes naturally, right? If you're a pitcher, like, that might be one pitch, or it might be just your presence on the mound and your ability to fill the zone up. As a hitter, it could be your power tool, or it could be your hit tool, run, whatever. I think that's the first thing. And I think that translates for every level of college baseball, but just after playing 4 years, like, that's what I've noticed for the D1 level. From there, okay, you caught our attention. Who are you as a kid? Like, I think kids kind of undervalue this, because they hear their travel ball coaches tell them all the time, like, oh, you got to be a good person. It means something, man. Like, you got to have a high level of character, and you got to do things the right way. Because coming onto campus freshman year of college, my game meeting with them was, how you do something is how you do everything. And that really stuck with me. But I also noticed it's so true, man. Like, you just gotta be a good person, and you gotta take care of those kinds of things. So I think that's a really big thing that a lot of kids don't really fully understand. And then from there, I would just say this, like, the separating factors, I would say my current head coach, Todd, Into Donato. He was awesome this year. Like, I love playing for him. One of the big things I've taken away from him is that his definition of competing is a high level of focus, an elite level of focus. I would say the separating factors for high school players to go to play in college is, one, have an elite level of focus, but two, have a really good routine or trust in your preparation. I think preparation and focus, I actually just shared this with our high school football team yesterday in Shrewsbury High. I was in there stopping by for a camp and spoke to some of those guys. And I think those are the two things that really separate guys because, you know, that's at its simplest form, but you have a good routine that you find coming into college. It's something that gives you confidence for when, you know, someone's ahead of you or you finally hit, you know, a period of failure or a setback. You lean on your routine, you lean on your preparation to give you the confidence to keep pushing forward. It's something to chase every day. Like, okay, I know what I'm doing today. I'm going to do this, and this is going to help me get better, you know, after 1 or 2 months in a row consecutively working on this. So
that's a good answer.
I would say those are the two things that I think if I had done a little bit better as a freshman, my career would have been a little different in college. But I learned the hard way, and that was good for me too, you know.
It's all learning.
But yeah, it was a good experience to learn the hard way. But I would give that advice to incoming guys for sure.
Well, we don't keep you all day, but we could go on and on about debating movies and all these new rules in MLB and stuff like that. But yeah, we appreciate you coming on the pod. John, has been awesome. Super stoked for you in a couple of days. You know, fingers crossed MLB draft goes successfully, and yeah, hopefully we'll have you back on after that to talk more about it.
That would be really cool, guys. This was great. Thank you guys so much for having me and for, you know, not just talking about baseball, but talking about the Peter Frates Family Foundation. That's a cool thing. Thank you guys for doing this.
Thanks for all that you do for the foundation.
Yeah, seeing what you do, man.
Yeah, good luck, man. For real. Good luck.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, you guys.